Okay, the Bears in February, per Bovada.lv, the Bears were 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. The next odds were in March. The Bears were 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. May 3rd, the Bears were 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. What are they now?
I'm going to guess that they have moved to 125.
150.
So the optimism.
So everything that everybody's talking about, all the good things they saw, the people who make a living trying to figure out how this works.
But it's also the people who are spending their money on
it.
Those who are actually going to invest in a team long term have no interest in this team. They see no path to the postseason. They see Green Bay, which is one of the favorites. I assume they're, second or third choice, fourth choice to win the Super Bowl? You have the Packers. You have the Vikings.
Green Bay's second. Green Bay has improved to 9-1. The Patriots' current odds are at 13-4. Packers are at 9-1. Raiders and Steelers at 10-1. Falcons and Seahawks at 12-1.
So, how do you get to the postseason? I mean, if you're the Bears, how do you get to the postseason? So why would
buy a ticket?
So why would anybody spend their money on that? And they're a public team, as the guys in Vegas like to say. Maybe not as much as the Cowboys, maybe not as much as the Patriots, not as much as the Yankees or the Chicago Cubs, who people would spend
what do you
money
mean by
on.
Public team? Just meaning
they're the kind of team
a
that people
nationally
would,
popular team,
and people would spend money on them. The Cubs' odds every year to win the World Series were a joke because people would come through town and they'd put their $100 on the Cubs.
Because it was a bit.
Because it was, I want to have the ticket. And it would every year, enough people did that. So many thousands of people did that the Cubs in many years were 10 or 15-1 to win the World Series when they should have been 150. But
it was that pronounced? There was a multiple of 10?
Oh, yeah.
Because people wanted to hold a ticket that said World Series champs.
What if it's really, and they talked themselves into it. What if it's really this year? Well, the Cowboys are a team like that. The Patriots certainly are now. The Yankees have always been. Now, the Bears are not to the extent that they maybe once were, but you do have Chicago people going through town doing that. The fact that they're going the other way tells you what people who actually invest their money think of this team. I mean, there's really no – Dan, we don't see this anywhere else in this town. No other team gets the kind of treatment. I understand the NFL preseason is different, but no other team gets the treatment the Bears do every year through the draft and free agency and then camp and then preseason. There is so much optimistic writing and discussion about them when it is not merited. No other team in this town gets that benefit.
Yeah, I was laughing at what were the words that the Tribune used today? And I love the Tribune's work. They've got an army of professional reporters out there covering this team. It's just the size and the footprint of their coverage. Here it is. This is the big spread.
That's a double truck right there, right?
This is a broadsheet newspaper, full-blown
2 pages. It's a double truck in the middle of the sports section.
These are what they have here. It's all sunshine. The differing degrees of hope. This illustrates exactly what you are talking about.
The Cubs don't get that. The Sox don't get that. The Hawks don't get that. The Bulls.
Other teams, reasons to be positive, reasons to be negative. And I'll tell you, like Casey Johnson, with the Bulls, and it's illustrated in their graphics. What Casey does, the horns pointed up, horns pointed sideways, or horns pointed down for every player. The Bears, the headline is, or I don't know what the newspaper term is, but it says, the differing degrees of hope, meaning hope is presumed.
Yes. There are only degrees of hope.
Only degrees of hope. A full sun is a ray of hope. A smaller sun is a glimmer.
Oh my!
And the tiny little sun.
This is what I'm talking about.
A flicker. So they pick one. So whatever editor decided how they were going to organize all this stuff, they decide we're not going to say this is good, this sucks, this is eh. It's all degrees of some sort of sunshine. Literally, degrees of sunshine. Offense, ray of hope, a glimmer, a flicker.
What?
Right.
What?
And you're right. That's a great point, Barry. No other team has everything couched in only degrees of optimism.
And it's every year. It's every single year. This is the third year of a rebuild. Well, they're going to be better this year. They better be better. This is the third year. They won 3 games last year.
They have no wide receivers. You know that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And their offensive line, which I'm told is one of the best in the NFL, if you believe their website, if you believe the people that talk
that's
about
their website.
No, but if you talk, but if you
real.
read all the stories about it, and you listen to all the discussions or watch the TV programs, they got one of the best offensive lines in football. No, maybe you didn't know that. And they won 3 games last year, okay? They're supposed to be better. This is the third year of a rebuild. They better win 6 games. They better be better.
Let's get back to the why. Let's get back. Why is it? Is it their ability to control message? Is that an NFL thing? Is it the fact that they've got everything on lockdown? They do a lot of their own production. Much of what, especially what you see in the preseason and what you see on some of their partnered affiliations, reflect stuff that they have produced, that maybe you're just getting house organ information more so with the Bears and other teams. But why is it that media outlets that are generally more objective about every other team and every other sport are looking on the bright side of life always when it comes to the Bears this time of year?
I can't exactly answer your question, but I think you're onto something in terms of the way that the NFL promotes groupthink, because there is so little information, and because during the preseason you see so very little of what of actual play. There's nothing on which to judge this. People are judging Mitch Trubisky on a body of work where he's playing against guys who either aren't in the league anymore today or are pretty far down on a depth chart. The kid's got skill. He's got a good arm. He's a good athlete. I have no idea what he's going to be. Maybe he'll be a superstar. Maybe he will. Maybe when Jay Cutler got here, the cheerleading for Jay Cutler doesn't even reach the heights that it has become for Mitch Trubisky right now. And Jay Cutler had 3 years in the NFL.
And a Pro Bowl appearance.
And had a serious body of work, starting something in the neighborhood of 40 games in the NFL already. This guy played 13 games in college and a few plays in the preseason against bums. And to see the way he's being portrayed, when I saw a guy, again, a good athlete with a good arm, I do think he has a good football mind. I do think he's likable, and I do believe that there's value to that in an NFL locker room where the opposite can be very bad. But what do we know about him at this point? I saw clock management as a serious problem, which is understandable for a guy getting used to an NFL offense.
Receiving a snap.
And taking a snap. Making adjustments at the line. I mean, people are suggesting that if Mike Glennon is bad in the first game, that Trubisky should go right in. And I don't know that you do a service to this player who is so unbelievably raw.
All right, let's answer that question. I really think that this deserves a little bit more oxygen.
But I do think, look, you have an NFL media where, and I have to cover the games, and believe me, it's not anything I look forward to. There is very little access to anything or anyone, and the NFL makes it very clear to you from the minute you arrive to the minute you leave that they don't care if you're there. In fact, they just as soon you not be there because you serve no purpose to them. They have TV money, Dan. That's all they need. The crew that comes in to broadcast the game, they are given carte blanche. That is all the NFL cares about, and they don't pretend otherwise. So, I think we have some really good reporters in this town, some really good football reporters. Rich Campbell, for example, does a really good job. I just don't know how much, and our guy Bob Lugero, who's been doing it for a really long time, knows the game. They're just not given access to anything. So, how much can they really judge a team?
But yet, why is the default setting then to take care of the team that shut you out and go along? So that's what I never understood. And
I don't know.
But as a former reporter, that's something that's very difficult for me to understand. Why do you want fans to feel good? Does that help you? Is it good for business when fans feel good?
I don't know the answer to that.
Or is it good for business to tell people what you actually see?
I don't know how many of the people who listen or read or watch really believe the things that Ryan Pace and John Fox tell you every day. I don't know if they really do.
Vic Fangio told you not to. He said it flat out. You can't really believe what they say. Take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, we know that. It's just odd to hear that from the defensive coordinator.
He's not long for this town, is he?
312-644-6767. It's a great point. It's just varying degrees of rays of sunshine.
I wish I had a good answer for you. I just the way it's all done offends me because no one else gets the breaks that they get. I mean, they draft a guy and immediately everybody they draft is an absolute winner. It's an A+. No matter what school they come from, whether you've ever heard of them or not, whether they paid too much to move up a spot, it's all forgiven. Everything.
In Woodstock, this is Chad on the score.
Hey, guys, I just wanted to say or explain why I think Bears fans are always so optimistic.
Not fans. We're not talking. We're talking about the coverage of the team.
Well, reporters, I think, get caught up in it also. You know, part of the media's job is to give us, the consumers of media, what we want. And what we want is optimism.
Why? Why don't you want the truth?
We want to look forward to the Bears on Sundays.
Right, but why don't you want to know what's real?
We know what's real, but it's kind of like going in a little bit ignorant. Like,
why do you want that?
Because the Bears mean so much to us.
Then why do you want ignorance? If they mean so much, why do you crave ignorance? That's insane.
Yeah, but when the Bears are bad and we know they're going to be bad, it's like, oh man, now I'm going to do chores on Sunday, I guess.
Why can't you handle that though?
It's entertainment. I want to be entertained by my Bears.
But you will be or you won't be. And you'll watch, and either you'll be entertained or you won't be. Why do you want somebody to shine an apple for you?
No, I won't watch if I know they're going to be bad. But this is the only time of year that we get to be optimistic. We know they're going to be bad. They're probably only going to win 6 games.
But why do you want to? Why do you want to lie to yourself? Somebody's got to explain this to me. Why don't you want to know what's real?
This is like us Cubs fans. You know, back when we were bad, we only had the beginning of the year to be optimistic. So we kind of lied to ourselves, like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe this is the year." We were lying to ourselves. But I think it sells papers and it sells broadcasts, and you're going to get more Bears fans to tune in that way.
All right.
I don't get it. Maybe somewhere for some people, somewhere in their minds, they need to think they're going to be good so they can look forward to Sunday, because Sunday's a big day for a Bear fan. I don't know. Maybe they
look. Here's the thing. I watch all the time. But it doesn't mean I need somebody to lie to me or misrepresent what they think it's going to be or what it could be. It doesn't mean I'm not going to watch. I watch when they're horrible because I like being mad at them. I like throwing things around and stomping around the room and screaming, "Hit somebody!" or "Why you can't miss that tackle? What's wrong with you idiots?" I enjoy that, but I know what it is, and I know what's actually happening. And then those 3 hours are over and we get on with our lives. All right, I'm looking at these descriptions of some of these blinking check marks, and I'm looking forward to this. Because you never know. It's a pre-Bears game Friday.
It's a Bears Friday.
Kind of,
after a preseason. Oh, boy.
West Side Sam, you're on the score.
Hey. Why are so many Bears fans eager to see Mitch Trubisky play, considering the history of what happens when they start rookie quarterbacks, particularly Craig Krenzel and Kyle Orton?
Because it has nothing to do with those guys. Yeah. Bob and Willowbrook, you're on the score. Hi, Bob.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Okay.
This conversation is a breath of fresh air. I don't know what you mean about a 3-year rebuild. We're on about a 10-year rebuild. This team is ridiculous, and it goes to the owners. The McCaskies are unbelievable.
No,
answer me this. Answer me. Why
we can't be
Bruce
doing
Arians...
this. We can't be. No. Nobody's talked about the McCaskies. We're already there. It's about time. Here's what I figured out. It's ownership. I'm here to tell you this.
Only since Michael McCaskey took over the operation and got rid of anybody that knew anything about football, including Jim Finks, who got out while the getting was good, who was just one of the best minds in the history of the game, who built a Super Bowl team that won, the best team ever.
In Homer Glen, it is Dan. He's on the score.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Hey, John Fox, he's on borrowed time. Everybody knows that. What's the probability that Ryan Pace gets his head coach for his franchise quarterback in either John Gruden or Sean Payton?
Well, first you have to make the assumption that they're going to write a $4 million check to John Fox to go away, which I think is
I think they are.
I think it's a possibility, but I still kind of have to see that, because then you're talking about spending twice that much on a Sean Payton or a Harbaugh or a Gruden.
Yeah,
at
the problem
least twice.
is at Fox's age, you're not going to be in a likely position to get contract offset. If it's a younger up-and-coming coach...
He's gone.
Right, he's fishing.
See you later.
So that's a real check, where with a lot of these guys, they're going to end up as a coordinator or they're going to end up with a college job, and you get a strong
He doesn't even
offset.
want to do this now,
Right.
let alone go somewhere else and do something that's less than this.
In Oak Forest, it is Mike. He's on WSCR.
Dan?
Yes? Say hi to Barry
Yeah,
Rozner.
okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I was on. Okay, for years you guys were so optimistic with Jay, and it never worked out. You guys were telling us we didn't know what we were talking about. So at least we got rid of him. But they do spend so much money on quarterbacks, and now you finally got a young guy. Maybe it's a good time to start all over, and then we're being optimistic about that. They didn't have to give this Mike guy $18 million for what?
It's a perfectly reasonable contract for a one-year stopgap.
But you could have, the guys that we had, I mean, you're going to win 3 games, you might win a little more. What difference does it make?
Yeah,
Exactly. What difference? Why do you care how much money they spent?
Yeah, but you see how much Calder put them in the hole all the years? They could have did something else. They could have got different players.
Wait, whoa. Pick a line of argument here. You're concerned about the money they paid Mike Glennon when that's the going rate for a bottom third NFL starter.
If you knew you were going to draft this guy, though, why bother? I mean, you could put anybody in there.
Right, well, signing him is one thing, but he's talking about how much money they pay. The money hasn't been an issue. They've been paying going rate for quarterbacks.
Okay, then get Harbaugh then if the money's not an issue. That might change everything.
Okay, well, thank you for the call. In Arlington Heights, Mark is on the score. Hello, Mark.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Okay.
This whole Bear fan thing, I hear what you're saying, and the bottom line, all this stuff.
Okay, but again, if you say Bear fan, you don't hear what we're saying.
Well, just in terms of the hope springs eternal.
But that's that wasn't the discussion was about treatment by the media.
Well, I guess, yeah, and people hear what they want to hear, and I think, people, it's entertainment, and they just want to get excited about it. But the fact is, when all is said and done, I think what gets lost sometimes, people rip on the McCaskies, but
God.
You look at Papa Bear, since 1946, they have won 2 titles. So I really think it does come down to ownership back to since the Great War.
I'm in score hell.
Look what the Hawks did with new ownership, and look what the Cubs did with new ownership.
I'm in the middle of the flames of score. Hell.
You should have done that. Can you do that as Woody Allen? Because that's.
I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Actually, now that I think about it, I will run through the valley of the shadow of death because you get out of the valley quicker that way, and he that hath clean hands and a pure heart is okay in my book, but he that fools around with barnyard animals has got to be watched. A, Socrates is a man. B, all men are mortal. C, all men are Socrates. That means all men are homosexuals. Well, I'm not homosexual. Some Cossacks whistled at me once. I've got a body that excites both persuasions. Some men are heterosexual and some men are homosexual and some men don't think about sex at all. They become lawyers. Thank you, Barry. That helped. This segment brought to you by TheraWorks Relief. To relieve muscle cramps in your legs and feet, use TheraWorks Relief. This fast-acting foam is clinically proven to relieve leg and foot cramps. Get TheraWorks Relief today at TheraWorks Relief.
Does it work for cramps in your brain?
This is, I mean, if you had like the classic score caller Bears bingo card,
we're close.
We're
closing
close.
in. I think we got 4.
Nobody's brought up the general manager, right? Let's just spin the wheel one more time. Dan in Frankfort, you're on the score.
Oh, hey, first I need to tell you guys, you are now my favorite radio host of all time bringing up this subject.
Okay.
With that said, man, if you do a podcast or something exposing the problem of the Bears.
This is a radio show. We don't need to do a podcast because we're actually broadcasting on terrestrial radio.
This will be podcast later, though,
exactly.
If you want to get it.
The idea of telling an afternoon drive radio host to do a podcast it kind of doesn't really make all that much sense because we're actually on the air at the moment in real time talking about it.
And I'll continue to listen. With this said, Ryan Pace needs to get fired.
There it is. And there it is. There it is. Oh!
Bingo.
Clear your cards. You guys, you ever think about doing a podcast? I know you've been on the radio for 22 years. You should really think about a podcast. That would be great. You should hand out a leaflet to the town square. What the hell? We're gonna do In Other News at 4 on the score. Bears have made a couple of roster moves. This just in. The Bears have waived.
Should I be sitting down?
Oh, yeah. Brace yourself.
Let me sit down.
They've waived running back Kadeem Carey and quarterback Connor Shaw from injured reserve. So much for that. Thought you were going to be an injured reserve. Psych. You're waived.
I should mention that Julie buried the lead before.
What's that?
The White Sox have purchased the contracts of Al Albuquerque.
Mike Francesa's guy.
And Chris Volstad
from
Charlotte. 2 guys I did not know were still in professional baseball.
Okay, well, now you do. And that's the Al Albuquerque, Chris Volstad.
Yes.
Are on the White Sox.
They are, as of this moment.
This from Marlon Brando's helper monkey. If these are the calls today, what are we going to experience on Monday? Fortunately, there is an excellent chance we'll all be dead by then, but good God. And Bill on Capitol Hill says, appreciate the conversation on local boosterism. I can tell you from painful experience here in D.C., the Chicago media isn't the only group to... I can't use that term, to whore themselves out to local NFLers. Not to be too glib, I wonder how much of it is the lingering effects of the booyahs, because many of the working hacks came of age just as traditional media was collapsing, but the worldwide leader demonstrated how you could do PR and get away with it. That the booyahs are themselves an inch from the grave doesn't even register as an irony. Plus, I have to be a cranky old man for a second. Time was everyone who worked at a major news organization had started on the police beat. There was a lot wrong with that model. The whole working class hack bit excused a fair bit of racism and sexism. But what was right about it was really hard to be scared by some team flack once you stood over a pile of corpses in the middle of the night. There's no cheering in the press box used to be a cliche. Now it's a punchline. And the jokes at our expense of anyone who gives a damn for their frontal lobes.
Yeah, Bill, I mentioned it to Dan during the break that the last 2 presidents in this country have been covered in a way that would make you wonder if there's any objective media on the national level at all. You shouldn't pick a side. There shouldn't be a side. It's just your job. It should be reporting what you see.
But then we hear the caller earlier say, well, I want the media to tell me that my team is good. No. You should, all you want from these reporters, anywhere, radio reporters, newspaper reporters, in television, All you should want is for them to tell you what's going on. And then you, as the consumer, decide if it's good, bad, or indifferent. And if you like it or don't like it. Or if it means they're going to be good this year or they're going to be bad this year. All you should want is what happened.
Yeah, and I don't want to be misconstrued here, but the
whose great malapropism was that?
And it's a comedian from what?
Norm Crosby?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
The thing is this might be on the uptick. It should be. It ought to be. It better be. They were a 3-win.
That is.
They won 3 games last year, and they lost 6 by 6 or fewer. And all we were told after every single game is we're close, we're close, we're close. We heard that the year before that. It should be better. This should be on the uptick. Maybe Mitch Trubisky is the answer. Maybe he will be someday.
He's supposed to be.
But my point is, every single thing they do is not great, and yet that's the impression I get. Not just this year, but last year and the year before that, and they seem to get a pass that doesn't exist for other franchises.
Glenn says, I know the perfect way to promote your podcast. Devin Hester can have someone hand out flyers. Thank you, Glenn.
In the casino.
Well, no, remember when Devin called in to promote his party? You don't remember that?
No.
Okay, Devin Hester had some big party that he wanted everybody to know about. So somehow he asked one of the Bears PR guys, hey, can I go on?
And they let him do this.
And he came on. And he was nice. He's Devin, and we talked about it and talked football. And then we said, okay, what do we need to let people know about the party? Get a phone number, a website. And he said, well, they should just keep their ears open and listen around. People be talking about it. There'll be flyers. And that
good promotion.
Like, right, all we needed was a website. One phone number, one website, an address, anything. And he just said, just keep, listen up and around,
Must have been a great party.
It probably was. I don't know if it was a good party or bad party, but he specifically wanted to come on to promote his party and couldn't tell anybody where it was, when it was, what it was, or how to find out about it.
You know what you ought to do, Dan? You ought to do a radio show.
Well, I got to start with the podcast first. You guys are great. You should have a podcast. That I swear to God, I never thought I would hear anything like that. Mike in Des Plaines, you're on the score.
Happy Friday, guys.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
It's been great. When talking about what's wrong with the Bears, accountability, not just for the last 3 years, but ever since
they fired a general manager.
They fired Lovey, who was 10-6, and ownership was all right with it. So it does fall on the owner.
Do you think Lovey's so what? You think if Lovey Smith were still here, the Bears would have won a Super Bowl?
It would have been different.
Different.
Not a Super Bowl. There was much better teams, clearly. But Lovey created a winning atmosphere. They got rid of him.
That's really just not the issue. As far as accountability goes, you've gone through 2 GMs since then. He held for an hour.